Now then, hands up who likes whack-a-mole? Yeah, me neither. I always thought it was stupid, just stupid. And like most folk with more sense than money, I never got off on any of them weird animal cruelty copycat games that followed in whack-a-mole's wake either. Bash the bees didn't melt me cheese. Clatter an ocelot I never got. And grab the ghoulies off a goat never floated me boat. But yeah, well, going back to the early 1990s and video game behemoth Konami, during what were a smoking hot streak of shiny success even by their lofty standards. I mean, we're talking a time of them putting out coin gobbling cabinets such as them their teenage turtle fellas. The Simpsons, etc. Well, never wants to sit on the laurels, them crazy Konami cats pull pretty much all of their zeitgeisty and arcade nous into one fell swoop, and quite understandably decided to put all their arcade eggs into a unfathomably khaki whack-a-mole basket, where players are actively encouraged to senselessly clatter a series of identical bespectacled lemon rodents. There's 50, count them 50, of these poor little Stepfordian efforts in total, and that number don't change at all whether they all get belted or not, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, only adds greatly to the overall experience, let me tell you. Thankfully though, there was a happy ending for all concerned, particularly anybody who ever got duped into playing this, as this backsack of whack crack went away and didn't come back, when everybody realised that Konami had not, in any way, shape or form, been granted permission for specific likeness use, after they inexplicably based the stars of this sorry show on everybody's favourite pity-seeking, overly exuberant, dirty brothel creeper aficionado, aka Ducky, from Pretty in Pink. Shame. Yeah, I don't really know why, but I weren't expecting much to this, if I'm honest. Even though I'd seen film it were based on and dug that right enough for what it were. Perhaps that's why I weren't expecting much, because subconsciously I was preventing myself from disappointment and quite a complex kids film related video game defence mechanism. Yeah, that sounds about right, doesn't it? But it's a good one, is this? The premise is one most, quote, grown-ups, unquote, of a certain age will clearly recall from their childhood, where, likely due to the innate social awkwardness, an unfortunate adult in the neighbourhood becomes the focus of McCarthy-esque levels of suspicion and scaremongering rumours, and their unconventional abode becomes a distrustful totem of provincial fears and prejudice and hatred. So you do what all kids do faced with that kind of, I don't know man, what the French refer to as a fait accompli. Somewhat when, you've no option really. other than to illegally enter said abode and attempt to put the entire house to sleep using extra strong cough syrup. We've all been there, haven't we? So yeah, knock out the old spook house with industrial strength decongestant and you're in like Flynn, immediately getting to the real meat of the matter and dashing about the dozing gaff, mindlessly destroying priceless heirlooms and that. And in that respect, it's wholesome knockabout fun. Rooting about in old drawers and that. For keys to help you along your morally questionable mission, while smashing further artifacts in order to help fill your water pistol up, in order to further dampen the spirits. I guess it goes without saying that it would not be a contemporary kid's vehicle without some kind of ham-fisted moralistic overtone, and this is no different in that respect. In that you run the understandable risk of watching your young criminal acquaintances get their just desserts in classic Freudian fashion by being graphically devoured before your very eyes with a pack of feral office chairs. Flipping typical. Aye, it's alright, I suppose, man. Right then. In the same way that all song lyrics ultimately boil down to the same half dozen or so common overarching themes, whether pursuit of love, lost love, discontent, self-loathing, etc., etc. Or, in the unique case of all-time Stone Cold classic I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts, a heartfelt celebration of a small yet seemingly perfectly formed personal collection of what is officially, in purely botanical terms of course, a drupe. So not really a nut at all. I know. Still, wholly unnecessary tangents aside, similar limits exist within video game narratives, which is why developers often hark back to classic literature to utilise original concepts, to help augment their lazy hackneyed ideas. Case in question here, Alice in Wonderland gets rinsed for all it's worth, figuratively and visually, though to be fair, there are some notable reverential nods to be found within its barely concealed plagiarism. For instance, Lewis Carroll's biographer famously noted how the author often lamented how he wasn't able to find a convincing plot element within the novel's narratives to credibly incorporate his well-documented adulation for bubble-blowing pea shooters. So I think it's a respectful touch that sees Carroll finally getting his wish in that respect here. Carroll mainstay The Chessboard plays an integral part. Its black and white squares offering a mellifluously mixed metaphor for what is quite obviously something, while Alice, if you want to call her that, bubble blows 7 bells out of ubiquitous variations on Tweedledum and Tweedledummass here. And almost all Carroll creations are present in some form or another, especially if you read excessively between the lines, hungry for the most tenuous link to help you fill your pea-brained agenda. Though, quite tellingly, though understandably I guess, considering the youthful market it was aimed at, all traces of Carroll's often barely concealed literary allusion to mind expansion via psychedelic hallucinogens have been robustly removed entirely. The programmers conservatively choosing instead to substitute unsuitable ambiguous content for much more family-friendly selection of multicoloured mushrooms. And then, of course, it goes without saying that there's a wonderfully weird, wonky witch intent on smacking up our heroine. Quite a tricky customer is old Witchy Poos, though persevere on giving her what for, and you've guessed it. Once victorious, you'll traverse through the looking glass. Get it? Come out the other side. In an obtuse nod to one of Carol's lesser known short stories, which were about, robots and that. Clearly a very short story, that one.